Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? It is Monday, April 1, 2024. And it is 10:16 a.m. As you all know, we are still receiving our budget documents, and so I thank you all for your patience as we receive them. And since we have our first two documents with us, it will be passed out to you all. We will start with that first. But first up, I will introduce the council members. First up, I would like to welcome our committee vice chair Wire, also council member Kia Aina. Councilmember Say will be is here, as well as Councilmember Toba. I would also like to welcome Councilmember Tupola and Councilmember Okimoto to the Committee on Budget. We don't have anyone with us online at the moment from the council, so I'll move forward. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 HRS, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda via two ways, remotely and in person on the council chamber, in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to testify. Please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will then identify you by your last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I will repeat myself when that time comes. Also, some friendly reminders and tips. If you are testifying remotely, please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I will proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we re-establish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. For written testimonies including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please silence or turn off all cell phones. Before we move on to our agenda, I would like to hand the floor over to Councilmember Okimoto as we have some guests here in the council chamber. Councilmember Okimoto.
Mahalo, Chair, and aloha and good morning, everyone. I'd like to have, we have with us here in our chamber members of the Hawaii Inline Hockey Team League. If I could have them stand up. They have you guys stand up? I asked them where they're from, and actually there are a lot of them from Mililani, where I'm blessed to serve, but also from Ewa, Kailua, Makakilo, from the North Shore, Hawaii Kai. They told me pretty much everywhere on the island, yet they haven't conquered Haleiwa yet, so we're working on that. But I know that within your within your group right now, we have probably members that cover the whole island. And leading the group right now, we have Bo Chun, if you could raise your hand, as well as Lisa Guibo. And I know Kiyomi Chun is here. Her husband, Kimo Chun, also is one of the heads of this organization. Kimo and I have been friends for years now because our daughters played soccer together over a decade ago. But we want to welcome you to the Honolulu Hale, and we look forward to hearing your testimonies later. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here today. And I think they will be here for item number 4, yeah?
Correct, item number 4.
Okay, thank you. With that, members, we are going to agenda item number 1. Members, as we go through the budget, it's not department briefings, but it's the CD1 amendments. I want to thank you all for your amendments. I understand that as we see it, we know it is quite a tight budget, and we are also taking up new real property tax rates. So So I do want to thank you all, but these first two items are not related to those real property tax rates. So let me just not talk about that. Okay, first up, we have our Bill 16, 2024, which approves the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation of operating budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. For members, it is Council Communication 78. So members, for example, I will be taking up items on the worksheets by page. You won't see it right now, but if there's a certain division that moves on to another page, I will be able to take that first page and then to the end of that division for the future worksheets, okay? So with that, I would like to draw your attention to Council Communication 78. I will highlight what it states, and then I will allow for queries to the administration or the agency that it refers to, that it relates to, okay? With that, I would like to share that we have the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation for the administrative services and the HART board support and provisos. We have amendments, and the amendments are to reduce the HART board support salaries by $18,989. And then also for the HART board support, once again, for current expenses at $403,657. If you look at the last budget of fiscal year 24, you will see that it is back to their approved budget from last year. These amendments were made by myself, and we will take up the provisos as a second page. So we will take up the first page with these amendments first. Members, do we have any questions for the HART board or HART administration? Or the budget chair for their amendments? Okay, well, budget chair has a few questions for the HART administration. We have with us both Lori Kahikina as well as members of our HART board. Director Kahikina, first up, I understand, have you seen the amendments to reduce to last year's budget?
Yes, I have. For the record, Lori Kahikina, CEO and Executive Director of HART. Yes, I have, Chair. This morning I did get the cuts.
Okay, thank you. During the departmental budget briefings, I know that you shared a little bit about what the increase was for the HART board. Would you be able to share that once again with us?
Sure, sir. The board has added in their own communications consultant that they would like to hire. And I think there was some travel and meals. Did I do that correctly? Yes.
Director, you can also
for
bring up other people
yes.
if you wish to have them respond as well.
Yes, I have the HART board chair, Colleen Hanabusa, and the finance chair, Robert Yu, if you have
Thank you.
additional questions.
You can bring them up. Aloha HART board chair Hanabusa and finance, I believe, is it committee chair? Robert Yu.
Right. Good morning.
So my question to the HART board members, chair and finance chair, is please explain the increase for the HART board support and labor.
Before we begin that, if you will permit me, Chair Cordero, a little bit of leeway, because I believe most of the members of the City Council were not here when the 2016 amendment to the charter took place. So the 2016 amendment to the city charter established that the policymaking body for HART is the board. Prior to that time, and anyone like Speaker Say knows, everyone knows whether you're in the Congress, the legislature, or city council, or even a legislative entity or administrative entity like us, the policy statement that matters is your budget. It's always your budget. So the budget falls within the purview of the HART board. The HART board in 2016 got the authority effective July 1, 2017 from the City and County of Honolulu, the voters, and that's why we have established the different things that you see. I understand that There were questions raised as to why the board had put it in. We put it in for transparency so that you could all see what the board was looking at. I understand that there was one council member who I spoke to offline who raised the question as to why do we need two communications entities? Because what if there's a conflict between the two? The answer to that is simply this. There is only one entity that speaks for HART, and that's both in the charter and in our rules, and that is the board. The board does not have anything to do with communications. The communications entity, aside from Joey Manahan, your former colleague, is held by a private entity called HDR. HDR is a consultant that does not report to the board. So it is in the board's interest, and the board has decided, certain members of the board wanted to have access to potentially their own communications because they wanted to ensure that the communications was clear. And so that there is no confusion, the official word of HART comes from the board. Even the executive director is not entitled to speak here or not entitled to speak anywhere unless the board authorizes it, and neither are we members of the board. We must be authorized because when you have a board or an entity as large as HART, that is the only way you can ensure that the communications is the way it is. I understand that you've also looked at the salaries. As you know, we have been without an executive officer, and we have to do a shout out to Dan Gluck, Corporation Counsel, who's done a yeoman's task of taking on that responsibility for us. And Joey Manahan has also helped us a lot in terms of posting things. We lost our executive officer in October. Just so you are aware, the reason why the salary has remained the same is our executive officer has been in that position, or was in that position, since 2011 when HART was first created. During that time, the only time she received a pay increase was in 2016, and this is before the amendment that gives HART Board the authority over the budget, where I personally came, and I was chair also at that time, I personally came to City Council and asked then Budget Chair Ann Kobayashi to please give her a raise and give her 2 assistants. She was doing everything herself. If you can imagine slipping up the stairs of Kapolei Hale with all the video equipment and everything, she was doing it all. No pay raise. And she told me that I was the last person who even got her a pay raise, so she's had no pay raise since then. So when you cut, you're cutting potentially our ability to be able to ensure that whoever takes that position can be paid a reasonable salary. In addition to that, in 2016, I also came to council before the charter amendment and asked them to provide our officer with quote unquote assistance, because she had no assistance. She had to do it all by herself, making folders, doing all of that. She had to do that before every board meeting. And I said, that's impossible for one person to do. Of course, at that time, we didn't have the budget that we have now. I mean, we didn't have the authority that we have now. Ann Kobayashi told Grabowskis, because it had to be told, that in fact you have to fund both an increase in pay for the executive officer who hasn't had one since 2011, and in addition, fund 2 positions, which they did. When COVID hit, we had a problem because people were doing online, so the demands for whatever was different, and we had a totally different board on our end as well, who was not aware of what the history was. So when you cut staff, you're cutting the legs by which we can exist. And we respectfully ask that you not cut staff because we're in the process of hiring our executive officer, and also under the rules that we enacted on the board side, and we, by the way, the charter enables us to do the rules. The rules have full force and effect of law according to the charter. What we have done is we've been tasked her with the requirement to actually go forward and to hire necessary assistance.
Chair Hanabusa, may I ask that the $18,989, is that for how many staff? That has been
I don't think that's for
reduced
one
to.
staff. do you know? This is Robert Yu. I'm sure all of you know. He is your appointee, and he probably is, as the other thing you may
Can you
not
please go
know-
to the microphone?
Go ahead.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. Good morning, Budget Chair, members of the council. I'm Robert Yu. I'm a member of the HART Board of Directors. Your question related to the $18,000 reduction, no, that is not for one position. So the HART Board in your city council budget has two approved full-time equivalent positions. The funding is for one. And why is it for one? I think that may go to one of your questions that I think you questioned the HART administration earlier with respect to professional services. So it's normal practice at HART to have professional services contracts to cover some of the hard to fill or some of the positions that require expertise that they may not be able to easily find locally.
Mr.
So
Yu, is that under salaries or is that under current expenses?
that's under current expenses, but
Okay, I was asking about the salaries.
yeah, so the 18,000 is not for one position. The one position that we asked for in the budget is for $165,000 plus benefits. So that $165,000 is in the city council budget that's proposed. The cut of $18,000, from what I see in the budget, is from the $165,000.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, and so under the current operations, the EO, or executive officer, is what Chair Hanabusa alluded to, assisting the HART board. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You can press the off button so you can hear me. You see the off?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay, it's yeah. Okay, so currently the executive officer is who staffs the HART board currently, correct?
Yes.
And then that is staffed under the executive director, or is that under the HART board currently?
According to the HART board rules, the executive officer, the board executive officer reports directly to the board, not to the executive director of HART.
Okay, so does the administrator work directly? So it works directly with the board and not directly to the administration of HART.
Yes, that's correct. The executive officers works directly for the board, but of course, doing daily operations, that person would have communications with the HART staff, depending on what the subject matter is.
Okay, and so the role and function of this administrator to support the board is only supporting the board.
That is correct.
And is this going to be new, or is that the current function right now?
That is not a new position. The former executive officer resigned, and her duties and responsibilities, or most of it at least, was done by Corp Counsel.
Done by Corporation Counsel. Okay. Are there possible, you said there's going to be one executive officer and then two support staff, is that correct?
Well, we're looking at one executive officer and, as of now, one assistant. And that goes back to how we prepare the budget for the assistant, because the salary for the assistant for the board executive officer is not included in the salary portion of the budget. The salary includes only the executive officer.
So then essentially, the board will have to rely on working with the those who work on the numbers or the budget of HART to come up with those numbers themselves. It's not specifically the HART board, correct? So the HART board themselves doesn't come up with their own, with HART's budget. They have to work with HART administration, right?
The HART board came up with our own budget, and we work with the administration to include the HART board budget in the total package that we submit to the mayor and in turn submit to you all.
Okay. My next question is relating to some of the descriptions that Heart Board and Heart Labor support it lists. So meals and travel, yeah? So how much out of this current expenses do you see covering for Heart Board labor support for travel and meals?
So we allocated or we appropriated 14,000
1,000. Okay. 14,000 for both.
for meals
For
and
meals.
and travel. So before I go on, I think it may make it easier for the city council. I saw the presentation to the city council by the
Yes.
Heart staff, and it doesn't include some of the details that we have when we approve the budget. So the details are in our current expenses that you see in the budget ordinance is 250,000 for internal control services, or for auditing services, I apologize. 110,000 for communication services, and we do not have a contract presently for communication services. That's just an estimated amount. And 140,000 for professional services, and 14,000 in our category is board all others. But in essence, that's meals and travel. And the breakdown between meal and travel, depending on the number of travel-related conferences a board member may want to go to, we budget about 3,000 to 4,000 per travel or per conference, including registration, hotel, airfare, per diem, and so forth.
Okay, this might seem like a silly question, but I mean, you know, I have long hearings, just like the Heart Board has very long hearings. I can't even watch all of it in one sitting. I have to watch it again. But I was just wondering, why do we need so many? Why do we need money for meals?
Okay, so if you listen to the Heart Board meeting,
Yes.
it could last forever, and it does last forever. So we
So do
thought.
mine. I don't have any meal.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to feed staff.
Correct. So, you know, I'm trying to provide you with our thoughts in putting the money in the budget. It doesn't apply to any other agency or legislative body. We just thought that it would be nice to have sandwiches available when the board meeting runs long. That's is really as simple as that.
Okay, thank you. Members, are there any questions? I do have another round of questions. Okay, Council, and so the next round I'll go back to myself. Okay, we have our committee vice chair Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. Thank you, Finance Chair and Board Chair, for being here today. Could you just walk us through the professional services, the $140,000? Like, what exactly does that look like?
Sure. As mentioned by Chair Cordero earlier, Heart Board has an executive officer, and in the past, the Heart Board executive officer also have an assistant. That assistant was removed by the Heart administration, I think in 2020 or 2021, somewhere in that time frame. So we did not include the salaries for that assistant in the salary portion of the Heart Board budget. We included in professional services, and the reason is, you know, knowing how much of a challenge it is to fill a position and the time it takes to fill a position, we were just looking at the same approach as the Heart administration when they use consulting contracts or consultants to fill a certain position that may be needed immediately. That doesn't mean that we will use consulting services forever for that position. It's just that, you know, when the need arises, it's much quicker and easier to use a consultant just for the short time period until we have a chance to hire a full-time civil service employee.
Okay, appreciate that. And then regarding the travel, I'm assuming, is that like going to talk with the FTA or going to like transportation conferences, or what exactly is entailed with travel?
It could involve traveling to have discussions with the FTA. Now, I've been a board member for, I don't know, about 2 years. I don't recall any board member traveling to meet with the FTA, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. Now, traveling to meet with the FTA could be going to Washington, D.C. to meet with them, or going to specific conferences, transit conferences that the FTA participates in. And there are many conferences FTA would have someone in the conference, to meet with conferees, or anyone that has an interest to meet with them.
Mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Yes. So I guess maybe not for you, but you can still stay there. I do believe that in these cuts that we're suggesting that we're actually not cutting any positions. We're decreasing the amount, right? So just to clarify, that's what's happening, right?
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, I do think that it was alluded to, maybe we're not cutting any positions. It's going to be a decrease of that 18,000. And then the other amount that's under current expenses, that cut was in relation to a communications contract. Is that correct? This 514,000 that's going to go to 403,657.
That would be part of the communications contract. That would be part of the professional services contract, and it could partly relate it to audit services, because our current expenditure is 514,000. It includes all those items, and
Understood. So there's various items listed under there.
Yes.
I guess my question is, two of the things that I felt like were duplicative were, one, obviously the communications, but two, also doing a separate audit above and beyond the audit that's already being required for HART to do as they move along through their process. So specifically, you guys are asking for a separate communications director to do what that's not happening right now? What is not happening right now that needs to happen?
You're referring to the communications contract
Yes.
that we're asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as a board, as a whole, we're looking at all the things that are coming down the pipe. Major projects right now going on is the underground utilities. And by the end of this year or early next year, we will have a contract in place, hopefully, for the city center guideway and stations. Now, those are big contracts that determines the, how rail is going to be until 2031. There's also discussion from the HART staff to the board staff with respect to extending the line from Civic Center to Ala Moana. And the HART board has put together a permitted interaction group to look into the possibility of going to Ala Moana. Now, with all these big projects going on, and we understand that the HART administration really is out in the community doing the thing, to communicate with the community, to do all the things that updates and be transparent to the community about the project. But we believe the board also have a role in that process. We haven't determined what that role is. Now, in the HART administrative operating budget, there is a communication contract with Pang Communications.
Yes, I've met with them before.
Yes, that's embedded in the HDR contract. Now, from what I understand, speaking with the HART administration, the HART board does not have access or direct access to that contract. Now, we have direct access to the contract without having to go through any approval process to work with Pang Communication, then that would be one way to not needing the full communication services amount that we ask for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's clear. So basically you're saying there's projects coming up, you guys want to be a part of somehow communicating that. Chair, is it okay if I direct a question towards the administration? So for Mr. Manahan or anyone, it could be even for Ms. Kahikina. Hi, good morning, Executive
morning.
Director. Thank you for being here. So my question is in regards to these upcoming projects as referenced by the previous speaker, are those things that you guys were already going to be a part of communicating via Pang Communications?
Yes. not just Pang, but also our own Joey Manahan and his team also. And the contractor is also responsible to do their own outreach, but we work hand in hand. So like we're doing with Non on Dillingham, we work hand in hand with the contractors, POI, to get the information out to the community.
Yeah, I guess my thought is anything that the board discusses would behoove your, administration to communicate. So I can see that there would be a different type of communication that the board would need different than yours. Is there anything that you believe possibly that some communications would be needed at the board level that you don't already have to do that would help your administration?
I'm not sure exactly what the board has in mind, so I actually leave it up to them
Okay.
if they want to.
Yeah, and I think they said that. They're not exactly sure the scope of it, which maybe the scope should be determined prior to the funding. But thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions before I go to my second round? Okay, next up is myself. So Budget Chair has a few questions relating to the process. So first up, when you do go out for communications, are you going to be going out for a contract or procurement?
Well, the first option would be to work with the Hart administration to see whether we could be a party to the Pang communication contract. That would be the ideal situation. If that cannot be accomplished, then obviously one of the things that we'll look at is to go out to procure a communication contract. But, that's something we want to do after we have a discussion with the Hart administration with respect to whether we could be added to that contract.
I was wondering if, since you have not yet had that conversation and maybe don't know the amount of money you would need to either secure further support from PAN Communications or the Hart administration, let alone how much a contract would go out for, is it too early to be putting in the Hart budget communications right now?
Thank you. I don't know whether it's too early because we have to have something in the budget, right? And that is what brought up this discussion. And even if we are able to work out adding the Hart board as one of the participants in the PAN communication contract, there's going to be a chance that the communication contract amount would increase, right?
Okay.
Now, I don't know how much the increase will be, but if the increase is 50,000, then obviously we're not going to spend the whole 110. So all these are just estimates at this time.
Okay, and then once again, for the process, who will be procuring? Will it be the Hart board chair or you as the finance chair?
Oh, no, it wouldn't be the Hart board chair or me as the finance chair. It would be the Hart procurement department with our input.
Okay, got it. Thank you for that information. Next up is, should you need further funding for those communications, what is the process thereafter? Let's say we adopt a budget, we move forward. The Hart board or Hart needs more money for that procurement. What is that process?
I think I'd like to interject here and clarify something. The PAN communication contract is an HDR contract, which means it's like a blanket kind of thing that we as the board has no control or oversight over, and definitely you don't. However, the way the board has chosen to do this is to make it transparent so you can see what the board anticipates. We didn't even know until we asked for an organizational chart of Hart administration that HDR was, PAN Communication, we heard the name, was covered by a contract, an HDR. It's no different than, I don't know if you remember people like Sam Carnargio, they're all hired by HDR. They're not direct hires. And your former budget chair, Ann Kobayashi, used to go absolutely nuts with these consultant contracts because there is nothing. It comes out of the capital budget. So there is no accountability. We're bringing it forward as it should be, as part of an operational budget. They are part of a capital budget, which means whatever they think should be paid for out of that is what that would do. And I do, and beg your indulgence in one other thing. Remember, the Heart Board is an all-volunteer board. They don't get paid. So there was a consideration that because we're going so late, a lot of them were saying, you know, you're either going to have to give us lunch break or you're going to have to give us food because we're going, you know, we're going through this. So we consulted with our attorney, and Dan Gluck said, as long as we're going through and working through, and that's why you see us, we're either in executive session or we have plates on our table, we can pay for their Subway sandwiches. It's nothing extravagant, Subway sandwiches. But if you believe that the board should not be afforded this, then it's only if we work through lunch. And if they should not be afforded this, then I guess we can figure out some other thing. But remember, I feel badly. They are an all-volunteer board. At best, all they get if they drive is validations.
Chair Hanabusa, I asked about should the HART board during procurement find out that the communications portion needs more money, what is the process thereafter to receive more money?
I think that I differ slightly with Robert Yu, and all of you who do not know, Robert Yu is your appointee, and he's very good, but he's the only person we have, when you ask who put this together, he's the only person we have that is finance, has any finance experience technically now. December 2022, he lost our director of finance for HART. He has not been replaced. January of this year, they lost the deputy. So the person who has the most knowledge on the budget is Robert. But I also think he has a slant on being part of administration. I believe that the HART board itself, if it believes that it should, and this is one of the members who believes this, that it should have the ability to have its own communications, that it should. Because technically the communications of HART comes from the board, not from HART administration, it's from the board. So it's the board who should be in charge of what is being said. And I believe that that's what it should do. And if that's the estimate that was given. And we are concerned with the move to CCGS, that's all the way to South Street. But after that, what we were also very concerned about is as the board does its PIG, the Permitted Interaction Group, to what we call Alam and beyond, that information has to get out there. People have to realize what the board is intending to do and what the board has done. Of course, you know, the workings of a PIG is confidential until such time that a report is created. And at that time is what we're hoping that we can call upon a professional to promote what the board's position is as to the future of rail.
Okay, thank you. I asked what the process was after the budget is adopted and is in ordinance and more funding is necessary. Normally, the budget of the different agencies will come before the council to possibly move funding as see fits, right? Whether it be contracts, personal service contracts, needing to match federal funding. What is the process after the council submits the budget and is adopted as ordinance?
This has been the controversy between HART and City Council forever. And I believe that the reason why the charter was written the way it was, and you would have to get the Corporation Council or your council services to, oh, by the way, it's Winton, to opine on that. But it's, you would have to, sorry, he used to work for me. So, so I believe that is a major question that has been tormenting council members and budget chairs forever. And the way the charter is written is that the budget is within the HART board.
Chair, what is the process right now? And has it been done in the last year or 2 years?
So we present to you what has happened. We present to you, and technically it's a draft from us. After you approve it or you enact it, it comes back to HART. HART then takes the step of adopting the budget. So in the past, what has happened is, I believe the last go-around, City Council cut the $250,000 that was for, quote-unquote, an internal audit. The internal audit is something that's a function of our rules before my time, to give you an idea of how long it's been there. It's a function of the rules And therefore, when it returned to Hart believed that it was still something that it needed to do in compliance with our rules. And as you know, our rules have full force and effect of law. That's also in the charter. So Hart restored the $250,000. That's the one example that comes to mind in response to your question.
Thank you. I just needed to know the process, what happened then, because once it becomes ordinance, we have our process, just as, Director Kahikina can't come before us without going before the Hart Board, right? So was there notice to the City Council and the Mayor relating to that restoration of the $250,000 last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was?
I'm not quite sure what the process was, whether that was something. We still had our executive officer who usually took care of those things. And of course, our corporation counsel would then do it. But the question that you have is, like I said, one that has plagued both the Hart Board as well as the city council and previous budget chairs forever. And the decision, as I understand it, on both the opinion of CORE as well as our own internal corporation councils. By the way, we have two. Hart administration has their own, and the board has its own corporation council. And that's because of the inherent conflict that can exist between us. And that's why we have the recommendations in the board portion to tell you what it is. So no, I don't know.
Okay.
Chair Cordero? Well,
Thank
it's
you.
something that you could ask
Our corporation
your council service. So
Thank you very much.
Council.
Okay, members, any other questions for the second round? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Dio. Oh, yeah, you can turn off the thing. Okay, seeing none, we'll now move on to testimony. We can have discussion afterwards as well. Okay, next up, we will now proceed with remote testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers online, and I don't see any hands raised for item number 1. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify on item number 1? Okay, Angela Young.
Aloha. I'm testifying on behalf of CARES and in favor of the Hart train and the appropriation of funds. Yeah, I yield this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. Okay, is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, now we will move forward to in-person testifiers. We don't have any registered in-person testifiers for item number 1. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, we are back in discussion. Okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Thanks so much, Chair. As you know, I did also submit an amendment to do some similar cuts, so I'm in agreement that there could be some trimming here that's warranted, but I want to be real specific. I am not arbitrarily suggesting this. I actually met with Payne Communications and specifically brought up things that I thought should be better covered, from the website to different items from meetings, and actually those things were adjusted. So I do want to suggest that any of the things that the board needs for communications could still be done by meeting with them or suggesting to the administration to put that communication pieces out. And so I feel like personally, unless there's a specific scope of work that's so different, drastically different than what's happening, that there is no need for another communications allotment of money. And again, I'm saying this as someone who met and personally said the things I didn't like about the communication, and they adjusted it. So I do believe that as the board members come forward, they could also have their suggestions added to any of the communications done by a Hart admin. Lastly, I just want to say thank you to all the board members, because I do know it's a free thing. No one's getting paid. We do want people who spend long hours on behalf of the city advocating for the public to be well fed. So I do agree on that part. But thank you so much, Chair, for your suggestions and for this conversation.
Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I do appreciate the scrutiny of the budget, and I do think that that's part of the reason we're here, right, to ensure that all the funding is getting spent appropriately. But I do know that anytime we appoint someone to commission, oftentimes what we're asking them, or what we do ask them, is how we can better support their volunteer work, right, and ensuring that city processes work better. And so I do hear from Chair and from the other committee members that they're trying to come up with innovative ways to better work with the community, better support their staff, better communicate with the community. And similarly to Councilmember Tupolo, mahalo them for all their work and service. And so my preference would be, not to reduce funding for the request that they made. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm correcting myself. I need to go through the provisos pages. So if we're still in discussion, members. So I would like to direct everyone's attention to the second pages, one of the provisos, which definitely updates the departmental communications as well as the revised ordinances of Honolulu references. Please take some time to review it, and I'll give everyone about half a minute. So, and you'll see them underlined, I mean. Any discussion on the provisos, members? Once again, Department of Communications, ROH updating, and I can't even say that word right now, non-substantive amendments. Any discussion on this? Okay, moving back to the first page. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Councilmember Say.
I would like to take the position of supporting the Vice Chair in regards to restoring the monies, probably because it's all transit funds and it can't go into the general fund. Any savings that we do, that's all.
Thank you. For reiteration, the Budget Committee member mentioned that he is in support of restoring the funding currently, as it is in the transit fund and not within the general funds, is what he stated. Is that correct? Okay. Members, any other discussion? Members, I support my amendments. And if there are further amendments for us to consider, I look forward to your CD2s, which are due April 25, I believe. April 25, April 29, I'm not sure what day it is. But I personally support my amendments. I will make the recommendation. We can have this discussion further. I do intend to meet with the HART board members after this meeting to discuss further. And if you wish to as well, I would like to encourage that with all the members, not just the Budget Committee members, but also all the members of the council. With that, the chair recommends that Bill 16, 2024 be amended to a CD1 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Any objections? Objection by Councilmember Say and my committee vice chair Wire. Okay, wait, hold on. I will have to call for roll call. Okay, Councilmember Kia Aina, CD1.
I'm sorry, is this your amendment?
It's my recommendations.
Oppose.
Okay. Councilmember Say. Councilmember Toba.
I'll go along with you.
Okay, yes. Okay, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
No.
Chair votes aye. The measure fails. That means I will have to resubmit my provisos next time. Okay. So, noting the 1, 2, 3 reservation, the objections by voting committee members of the budget, the bill is to its original Bill 16. The chair recommends that Bill 16, 2024, not as amended, be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion? Any objections? Any discussion?
Discussion.
Committee Vice Chair.
Yeah, appreciate Chair's work, and just want to note that my vote today was a reflection just of the conversation and what was laid out. And so I'm hopeful and glad that you'll be meeting with the board, as you mentioned, and so look forward to any further information that we can draw out to evaluate potential future amendments if they're needed. And so just wanted to note that appreciate all the work that's going into it.
Okay, thank you. Hold on one moment. Thank you. Okay, I'll resubmit my provisos or any other amendments next go around, and that's my discussion. Any objections to the Budget Bill 16? Any reservations? I have reservations. Hearing no other, so ordered. Moving forward to the agenda item number 2, Bill 17, 2024, approving the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation capital budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Members, that is Council Communication 79. 79, okay? If you're watching online as well, you can go to our Honolulu City Council, go to our documents, and find Council Communication 79 for the worksheet review. Right now, let me find it. Okay, it is the Hart budget bill. There are no proposed amendments. Members, are there any questions for the Hart administration? Hold on, I will ask for questions first. Any questions? Okay, on the first page, we don't have any amendments, but we do have amendments for the proviso. Members, if I could please direct your attention to the proviso where it changes governmental to government. It updates the departmental communication as well as the ROH and other non-substantive amendments. Any questions on the proviso? At first I thought government was spelled wrong, but no, it's just my eyes. Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing none. Any questions for the Hart administration relating to this? Any of the amendments or any of the worksheets? Seeing none, okay, we'll go to testimony. We don't have any registered testifiers, but is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers, but is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Making sure, okay. With that, members, we are back in discussion. Okay, nope. Oh, Councilmember Say.
Yeah, Madam Chair, would it be possible on the conference committee draft 2 that I do a proviso in regards to no change orders for the upcoming fiscal year? I want to stick it to the Hart board. No change orders. Or you folks want the flexibility. When you do a change order, that means you're increasing the cost.
Yes,
And that's where I'm trying to control the cost.
yes. But in construction, for the record,
Go right ahead.
Lori Kahikino, CEO and Executive Director of HART. In construction, there's a lot of unforeseen things. We've been able to keep our change orders to a minimum with our Dillingham and downtown utility relocations, but to limit our hands like that is, to me, irresponsible.
Well, I think the board can always come back to the council and have an emergency appropriations meeting. But my point to you this morning is that change orders will just be abounding. And I'm just stating for the record. And that's why I'm trying to hold your feet to the fire that there is no change orders for this upcoming fiscal year. And in this particular CIP, there is nothing, just a basic operating but capital improvement budget that you had submitted earlier. So that's all I'm trying to say. If we can't control the change orders, we can't control our costs. That's the bottom line for a capital improvement project.
So the change orders are approved by the board first. It's first vetted internally with HART administration and our construction inspectors. Then it gets vetted through the board. Are you saying no change orders for the current CIP that we're submitting today
Yes,
for CCGS?
yes,
That's fine,
okay,
for fiscal year 25.
fine, yeah,
Understood.
thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Okay, members, I look forward to
Chair.
your CD2s.
I'm sorry, there is an error
Where?
in Bill 17. On the first page, BudCom, it's D-8 2023. So the federal grant is $250 million. The transit improvement bond fund is $60 million, and the transit fund is $264 million. If you look at the BudCom that we submitted, that HART submitted on December 1st, 2023, that last table the green table, the Transit Fund 690, the city, the skin in the game, is correctly in source of receipts. So it's up there, the $10 million, the last column, FY25. For some reason, and I believe it's Hart's fault, we submitted it to you folks where we put that 10 million in the Transit Improvement Bond Fund. It's not a bond on the Hart side, it's a bond on the city side. That $10 million, so it's probably in BFS's budget. So it's a bond on city side, but when it comes to us, it's a source of revenue. So we are requesting that Transit Improvement Bond Fund switch from 60 million down to 50 million, and the Transit Fund increase from 264 million to 274 million. So we're just moving the 10 million in the correct bucket.
Thank you.
We will submit that to you. Oh, I think we did. We submitted it
Yes.
on Thursday. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. My deadline is mid-April
Okay.
for my CD2, and I'll look forward to including that correction.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any other discussion? Chair would like to recommend, one moment, that Bill 17, 2024 be amended to a CD1 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today, which is the provisos, which are the provisos, and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Councilmember Tupola.
A quick question. So for Section 4, are you going to be referencing a new departmental communication from their department as opposed to this one from December 1, 2023?
My CD2 will include any necessary amendments or including provisos when we make the amendments in the future.
So we'll still add this one and then add in addition what she just brought up?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any objections? Any reservations? The bill has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends Bill 17, 2024, CD1 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, agenda item number 3. Hold on one moment. Okay, thank you very much, members. We are now moving on to agenda item number 3. I think you all have your documents already ready, so we don't have to take a recess, right? So you should have, if you don't have, you have your revenue rates available, then please look if you have your operating budget and capital budget and then legislative, I think. Everything should be on your desk. Or, oh no, they're gonna be passed out. They're gonna be passed out, excuse me. So revenue rates first. Okay, first up. Resolution 24-61, which determines the respective rates at which real property in the various general classes in the city and county of Honolulu shall be taxed per $1,000 of assessed value for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Members, the city administration submitted the revenue rates and assessed values for the fiscal year. We are now having our first discussion about this. This is a great time to ask our Department of Budget and Fiscal Services for revenue impacts, should we make any changes to the tax classes. And also, members, with your indulgence, I would like to take up testimony before we bring up the administration. Is that okay? Is that cool? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. With that, we will now proceed with the remote testifiers for agenda item number 3. We don't, we do, oh no. We have registered testifiers online for number 3. Online is Michael Brandt. Michael Brandt, followed by Virginia Dutton online. These are online testifiers. Michael Brandt, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Cordero. Good morning, council members. I had the privilege of appearing in person before the council last year when the new tax rate for vacation rentals was proposed. And I spoke in favor of it in view of the huge increase in assessed valuations. At that time, I hadn't actually received my new tax bills yet, but now I have them, and it was even worse than I expected. My taxes have gone up 35% in 6 months. It's a very heavy burden for individual small business operators. So just as the homeowners have received some relief on their tax bills, I speak in favor of keeping vacation rental peoples in business and providing you and the state our tax revenue. So yes, I do support a new lower tax rate for short-term rentals. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brandt, I have a question relating to, is this the, from the last property assessment value, or is it the new assessment that you're talking about? Were you informed of the new value by chance?
The most recent assessment and the most recent tax bill, as I say, it's increased 35% for me.
Okay, thank you. As we haven't approved any new rates or rate classes, I think maybe if any of the members can keep that in mind, so we can ask the department later. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brandt. I really appreciate your time. Next up, we have Virginia Dutton online.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any other registered testifiers online, registered remote testifiers, I should say. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify on agenda item number 3? Number 3. Okay, Angela Young. Is that an alarm or is that the April 1st? Okay, it's okay. We can hear the sirens. Okay. Angela. Okay. All right. Seeing none, I think she may have been wanting to go for another agenda item. Okay, in person, we have Jill Paulin, followed by Charlene Fu, in person.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Paulin. I'm here today representing OSTRA, and we oppose Resolution 2461. We're grateful for the separate TVU category that was created last year because it acknowledged that our rentals are different than hotels. 25% of the island's visitors are not vacationers. They choose our rentals along with residents that are in transition, traveling nurses, and other essential workers. The proposed TVU rates are 40% higher than the 6.5 and 10.5 that were discussed last year by BFS. We were prepared for our taxes to double, but anything more than that seems punitive. Remember, 78% of our owners are kapuna, 76% are residents. 1/3 of the eligible TVUs have not registered yet because they were afraid this would happen. As the chair said last week, we shouldn't strive for a system where we have to catch people and fine them. Let's strive for a system where we have fair policies that encourage compliance and lower enforcement costs. Please lower these costs to these rates to what was discussed last year. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Paulin. Next, we have
Chair, could I ask a question?
Oh, okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Ms. Paulin. Just real quick. So on the Class K transit vacation Tier 1, you're suggesting 6.5, and for Tier 2, you're suggesting 10.5?
Yes.
And that's from the discussion that we had previously when we didn't have this in the law yet.
Right, I understand they were just for discussion purposes, but we sort of planned on that.
And the 6.5, you're drawing from the bed and breakfast price, which is also 6.5.
I think that's where that came from last year. So they, obviously didn't want to go below that because that's the bed and breakfast rate.
And in OSHA's perspective, the B&B is no different than Tier 1 TVU?
Yeah, we believe so because they don't have the second tier in most of the B&B homes, and there's only 33 of them. But most of those are valued at least $1 million. So the fact that they won't have the second tier, the STR's overall rate will end up being quite a bit higher than 6.5.
And the Tier 2 separation is the 1 million and above, is that correct?
No, it's actually 800,000 for TVUs.
Oh, so 800,000 and below is Tier 1,
right.
800,000 and above is Tier 2.
Right. So in essence, they would pay more than the B&Bs.
Yeah, much more. Yeah, Thank you.
Council Vice Chair.
Chair, thank you. I'll actually wait for my questions for BFS, but let me just say something to the testifier because there were bed and breakfasts and transient vacation units with nooks, right, who were actually charged the underlying zoning rate, so they saved a lot of money. And then there were TVOs without nooks who were actually paying hotel rates, who are actually saving from this. So I wouldn't mind another dialogue with you, but it would be good for you to be keeping track of both those with nooks and those without nooks, and bifurcate between B&Bs and TVUs. But we'll have a dialogue another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Chair,
you very
can I
much.
have a follow-up?
Okay, Councilmember Tupola for Ms. Paulin.
Yeah, sorry. And, well, so I think her question is valid, and I want to say you guys have data. I think it would behoove us to look at it because, to your point, there were some people going below it and not paying the right amount, and then there are some people at the hotel rate paying way over because they weren't in the right class anyway. So is there a way OSTRA can share the data you guys have with us?
Yes, I don't have that with me, but I wanted to make one comment. There are some TBUs that were paying the residential rate whose taxes would go up. And you're right, there are quite a few that were paying the hotel rate whose taxes will go down. And we have a pretty good record of that. We just may need BFS's help to understand who actually registered. Because I can tell you who should have registered, but only 2/3 of those eligible did.
Yeah, I think their data will help all of us. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Paul.
Thank you very much, Ms. Paulin. I have a question. For the new class, would you be able to share the Tier 1 and Tier 2 recommendations that was discussed last year?
Yes, it was 6.5 and 10.5.
Mahalo. Thank you very much. Members, we're still in testimony. We will go into discussion after testifiers, but I would like to allow for testimony. Thank you. Ms. Fu, Charlene Fu.
Oh, there. Hi, you guys. I'm just here on the, I've been one of those original TVU certificates holders and my family for 34 years. And I have worked so hard to be able to leave this to my children so they can stay on Oahu. I just don't understand what the benefit is of taxing me out of business, because this will put me out. We're talking 34 years of my life to build this thing. And all I've had happen is the certificate fees have gone up 50 times. The tax assessments on the properties have gone up as much as 20%. And I was residential A, and now I'm vacation rental, which will quadruple my property taxes. And there's only 114 of us on the entire island zoned residential. Now I'm vacation rental, though, so you've got me all categorized somewhere different. So why do I keep getting punished? Why, for 34 years, have I done the right thing? What happened? You know, I don't know who benefits from putting small business out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. These are great questions that we can also ask the city administration for their proposal. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify on agenda item number 3? Okay, members, seeing none, we are going to be able to ask the city administration questions. I know that we received a lot of emails, so thank you very much for those that emailed. I just want to recognize that we have received them, we've read them, and I hope that it's been submitted to the city clerks as well. I'm not sure. I think so, yeah. Okay, with that, members, we are in discussion. We will now bring up the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, and first up, I'll have them explain the rates that is proposed for the fiscal year 2025, and then I will open up for questions. Please proceed. We have our Deputy Director, Carrie Castle, with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, Council Vice Chair Kiaina, and Honorable Council members. Carrie Casso, Deputy Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, here to answer questions. With me today, I also have Stephen Takaro. He is our Real Property Tax Administrator.
Thank you. First up, I just want to reiterate that our budget, the city administration's proposed budget is based off of these classification rates. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Members, any questions? Okay. Council Vice Chair Kia Aina, go ahead.
Thank you. Is it correct that transient vacation units without nooks were previously classified as hotel and resorts? So under Resolution 21-64, they would actually be paying less than they would have if they were still categorized as hotel and resort?
That is correct.
What about bed and breakfasts? I know we have had the B&B category for a while, but I understand it was not previously being applied. What rate was being applied to B&Bs without nooks?
So the bed and breakfast was at $6.50 per 1,000 assessed value. But you're correct, Councilmember Kiaina, there were no registered properties identified as bed and breakfast.
Also, to clarify, TVUs and B&Bs were previously classified based upon their underlying zoning, correct?
That's correct.
So even though they were operating commercial businesses, they previously were being charged only residential rates if they were located in residential districts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And after passage of Bill 41, they will now be categorized as TVU or B&B for property tax purposes, correct?
Correct.
And just lastly, because I know everybody would like to know, can you share your reasoning behind the proposed TVU rate as well as the B&B rate?
Yes, so when we started discussion about the TVU class, the discussion was that we were looking for a rate that was somewhere between the bed and breakfast and the hotel. And so, you know, I think at the time, there might have been a discussion about a $6 to $9 rate. But in further assessment, we determined that based on the data that we had, there's 1,872 parcels that are identified as TVUs. And then we looked at the median value of those properties. And so based on that information, and also looking at what the other counties were charging for the TVU class, we determined that having this two-tier, starting at the $9 and then also going to $11.50, it seemed reasonable and comparable. For example, for Kauai, they only have one tier, but they are charging a rate of $9.85. And for Maui, again, one tier, they're charging $11.85. So again, we felt that just looking at the comparables, it seemed reasonable.
For the purposes of the general public, could you first describe difference between a bed and breakfast home and a transient vacation unit? And then my second question, in general, TVUs, you would say, earn more money than B&Bs. So first, the first question, if you could just describe for the general public right now the difference between the two. And then second, whether you believe that TVUs make more money than B&Bs.
With the bed and breakfast, generally what you have is an operator on site to assist with the guests that are occupying that bed and breakfast. With the TVU or short-term rental, that's not the case. Basically, the client will, say, rent the property, and there is no, I would say, support by the homeowner or the rental owner in terms of providing services or anything of that nature.
And do you believe that TVUs generate more revenues than B&Bs?
As it is now, because we don't have registered B&Bs, correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee Vice Chair Wire, followed by Councilmember Tupola.
No, thank you, Chair. And mahalo, Deputy Director, for being here. Did you have a chance? I know Astra has been doing a lot of data collection, and they provided testimony on suggested changes for both the threshold, raising it, I think, from 800 to $1 million, and then also proposed rate changes. Did you have any analysis on potential impacts from that, or how that would change revenue?
We've received some emails and exchange, but we haven't had a dialogue.
Okay. And the only reason I ask is because I do kind of wonder with, as was mentioned, you had some folks that were paying maybe a resi rate and then others that are maybe paying a resort rate. And so just for some folks at least, the impact is pretty dramatic, almost over doubling, right? If you're going from $4 to, was it $9 exactly, or $9.50?
$9.
$9, yeah. And so I'm just curious, because I do think at minimum, maybe bringing that down to like $7.50, because I do understand the equity discussion about B&Bs versus a whole home. But again, we're looking at specifically the folks that are operating legally, that are paying their taxes on these locations versus the plethora of, homes out there that are operating illegally. And I know we'll have that conversation with DPP about how they're making progress on that. But just wanted to make sure we're focusing on exactly who is being affected by this. And that's why I think that financial analysis would be helpful if you could look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Wire. Yeah, the data will definitely help us. I think for transient vacation unit rentals, the homeowners, it's a mix. So we're open to hearing discussion.
Okay, appreciate that. And I think looking both at the recommendation as put forward, so if it came down to $650 and the threshold was raised, but then if we don't change the threshold but brought it down to say like $750, maybe having different data points would be helpful, in terms of the revenue implications.
We will need to take a look at that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councilmember DePola, followed by Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Ms. Castle. Thank you for being here. I agree with Councilmember Wire, and I just want to clarify one statement you made. Are all the non-conforming use certificate holders paying resort rates? Because the question was asked previously, and you said, yes, they were all paying resort rates, so this is cheaper. So are you of the belief that they're all paying resort rates?
No, they're not.
So you are clear that all the current non-conforming use certificates are paying residential, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so you're clear on the residential rate being the $3.50, right? And
Correct.
So we are now asking those 134, very few, whatever amounts of people to go from the $3.50 to the $9. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm going to ask our real property tax administrator, Stephen Takara, who has more of the details to share.
Sounds good. Mr. Takara, welcome. Go ahead and share.
I had to check my clock if I could say good morning. It's still AM, so good morning.
You have some morning hour left.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So just to kind of clarify, there's two things going on, right? There's the B&B class as well as the TVU class. So the testifiers, I wasn't sure what they were speaking of. The B&B class, if they were in the residential and now in the B&B, they went from $350 to $650. That's almost double, right? So that's that.
But hold on, let's take that statement. I'll let you go to the next one, but let's just take what you said.
Okay.
You said if they're going from residential to B&B, but isn't it true right now that there's nobody in B&B?
In FY25, there will be.
So in FY25, if people are renting out and they live on the property and they have a non-conforming use, they go from residential to B&B. So we're going to move people into that classification, correct?
On the most part, yes.
And so that's double, correct?
Nearly double, yes.
Okay, move on to your next statement. Go ahead.
So speaking of the TVU class, I'll double check, but on the most part, most of them were not in the hotel class, because if you're in their hotel class, you can rent short-term legally.
Yeah, you wouldn't need this.
Yeah, you wouldn't need it. So that's why it's the ones that weren't able to short-term rent that needed to register, so now you can short-term rent.
And they would exist in the residential.
Correct.
Understood.
Yeah. So
and that's going to go from the $350 to the $9.
No, so that possibly. Right, they could have been, because this dates back like four or 5 years before Bill 4. Sorry, I gotta listen this up a little bit. So the concern was if you had a resi property, would they pay less taxes if they were in the TVU class? And there are some cases they were, but on the most part, they're going to pay more.
Yes, everyone.
Right.
Everyone.
So the idea was to get it legal, register, and do the short term. The idea was, if I recall correctly, it was talks about keeping the TVU class rate same as the hotel class rate because the benefits, but testifiers were, and
I remember it.
right, they're saying the amenities and stuff like that, but we kind of talked about value. So okay, so I forget what I'm talking about already. But the point is that there's limited amount of parcels that's going to pay less in the TVU class versus the other way around. If you look at it.
True.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying that, like, yeah, we have the whole, oh, well, this is below the resort rate, so this is, much cheaper. But again, we're not taking people from the resort rate down. We're taking people from res rate up. And what the gentleman shared previously was, no matter if we change this or not, everybody's valuations went up again. So, and we're not talking tax rates, we're talking about valuations. And that's out of your control, that's out of our control. So I think that's where my concern is. I see that you guys use the whole, okay, Maui pays this, Kauai pays that, of which I would say, to be honest, it's kind of different, right? Apples and oranges, we talk in Oahu here, so I see that there is a comparison. Thank you for saying where you got it from. But coming from Res A up at that jump is a lot. So that's all I gotta say. I just think that there needs to be more of a gradual increase. I think making the brackets make sense, putting people into the B&B classification because having nobody in there doesn't make sense at all. But I do think we have to be reasonable as we compare ourselves. Maybe the goal is to get here. Maybe the goal is find this parity, but how do we bring people up at a rate that doesn't just immediately put everyone out of business and then now we have more people leaving Hawaii because it's been 35 years they've been able to do this and now they got to pay quadruple what they had to. So thank you, Mr. Takara, for being clear on all of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next up, first round is Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Takara or Ms. Castle, but I had questions that were asked and you had kind of answered about the numbers. So you stated about 1,100 are non-registered. That's what you anticipate, or that's what you're estimating. How many are non-registered illegal TVUs? Do you have an idea of what that is?
We don't. I don't have that. I don't have that. Yep.
Can I gain clarity in your comment or question? Right, so if there's 1,800 and the 1,100 you're speaking of is
well, I'm trying to get an idea because first of all, Vice Chair Kiaina asked about the B&Bs versus the TVUs, which I think we have an understanding. You said right now there's no registered, but in fiscal year 25 you anticipate some to be now legally registered for the B&Bs. Is that correct?
No, yeah, so that's why I was just trying to gain clarity of what's out there. So previous to Bill 4 establishing the TVU class, everything was placed into the residential or the underlying zoning, which most times was residential A. So Bill 4 created the registration process for both the B&B and the TVU class.
But along the B&Bs were not, you're saying that nobody registered under the B&Bs?
Yep, okay. Sorry. If you can bear with me, okay. I mean, I'll try and talk fast as possible. So part of the change that Bill 4 caused, or the impact of Bill 4, was the existing NUC, the non-conforming use certificate properties that were in the existing B&B and the TVU class, that they could function in that way, were now placed in those classes that was created. So B&B was created a few years ago, but then the TVU class was created recently in Bill 4 last year. So at that point, you needed to register, and part of that process was the existing NUC lists were then placed into the appropriate class, B&B or TVU. Okay, so of that, so just to give you another history, so I believe there was about 30, less than 40 B&B parcels. So they were basically switched. And I think there was one or two registering of B&Bs. There were about 770 TVU NUCs were migrated to the TVU class. So I think that's where the 1,100 comes in. I think that's what you're referring to. Okay. I'm just guessing, but is that where you got the 1,100 from?
I'm trying to figure out the math, yeah. Because I've heard 34, so you're saying less than 40, which I think was about 30-something. But they were all under the TVUs at some point, then they separated B and B, but you were saying earlier that they actually aren't technically B&Bs, they will be on fiscal year 25. How many,
Okay.
I want to know how many registered legal B&Bs we have
Okay.
and the TVUs, because I agree with Vice Chair Kiana, there's a difference in what they're valued at. The B&Bs, from what I understand, there's actual people living in the residence and they're renting out, or they allow a part of their home to be used, correct?
Correct.
As a vacation rental of some sort. But the TVUs, there's nobody living in it, it's just an empty unit that is then used as a vacation property.
Correct.
And that's why we have the breakfast, the B&B, and then the tiers 1 and 2 for the TVUs. So going back to it, so again, you said about 40 are under the B&B, that's what will be under fiscal year 25?
Yes, so I stand corrected. There's 31 B&B parcels in that classification. And then there's,
But they will be, because you just earlier you said they're not actually listed right now.
well, they are now.
They are now.
Yeah, so we're talking FY25. So in 24 or current and previous, there were, I think for those 31 were in the residential class.
Okay.
And I think that's where the concern is, that they were in the 350 or even the Resi. So that 350 rate is now 650.
Correct.
Right, so.
And the TVUs you're saying is about 770.
Yeah, 770 existing TV with nuke, right, non-conforming certificates, the nuke. They were placed from, on the most part, most of them I believe were in the residential, and now they're getting placed in the TVU class, which is now proposed at $9 for the first 800,000, and I think $11.50 for any in excess of 800,000.
Okay. Do you guys have any idea, have a grasp of how many illegal, non-registered TVUs, B&Bs we have? I think that's another concern.
Yeah,
that's really the crackdown that we have to crack down on.
I'm more fidgety now because I got to punt to somebody
Okay,
else.
because I would like to know what we can do to address that issue.
And I think that's what the testifiers were talking about. That the idea was to create a program to legalize and get it on the books, so to speak, and not harm them with taxes because they're already paying registration fees and all these other things that they got to do to adhere to the program criteria. So I'm kind of getting caught because, right? How do we solve this riddle of legal versus illegal, and how do we have this harmony in our community? So
I appreciate you answering my number of questions. Maybe if Ms. Castle can, I would like to know what the plan is moving forward in addressing the issue of the non-registered illegal vacation rentals.
Yeah, so I think it might be beyond me or
maybe maybe someone, Ms. Castle, could answer that. Is there any addressing of that?
Yes, Councilmember Okimoto. As you know, the Department of Planning and Permitting is, they have a section that they've stood up. The short-term enforcement unit is working on identifying properties that are operating illegally. They are in the midst of procuring software to help them to identify quickly potential illegal vacation rentals, and probably most importantly, to do enforcement and fines and so
And DPP is very busy, we know. But in this discussion, I can understand the struggle that the owners of these B&Bs and TVUs have. Although I know that we also have a housing crisis, so I'm trying to figure out what we can do to do the honest thing across the board. So DPP has a big job with everything that's being thrown at them. But I know that these numbers are, if we could get them more concise and see where exactly the pukas are that we need to fill in addressing enforcement, as well as how we can make sure that the city is getting the right revenue that we're due, if we're talking about real property values and the taxes that are supposed to be brought in. That is our only source of income. But thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Director Castle, for letting our Vice Chair know about being open to discussing the rates. Of course, as we know, there's a lot that members are asking and relating to the data from OSTRA, and especially not just with BFS, but DPP, who also will manage. So by chance, do we know if DPP has been in consult with Mr. Takara and yourself and the budget director on such rates too? Have they been, do they have the same data that, OSTRA has been doing their best to share with us?
Well, we have been meeting, or we have had discussions with DPP in terms of what real property tax has in terms of their data, and trying to compare what DPP has in terms of their data. And we're sharing and we have discussion. But, I think when it comes to trying to determine what the best rate is, the number of parcels or the number of homeowners and STR owners that are affected, the best way, to make decisions is to have data. So we will continue to work on that so that we can make the best decisions for the city as well as for the city as a whole.
I do want to note that, once we allow for BFS to receive that data, as well as looking at the different rates, that these rates are then moving along with the current budget bills at the same time. So getting expedited information from BFS, such as, if we look at a 750, like it was just hypothetical rate, to look at like how much revenue impact that will cause to the budget. So that would be good to know as we move on into public hearing and back to committee. So just wanted to bring that up.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Okay, so it's next round of questions. We have Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I actually was going to offer if Ms. Paulin had any thoughts on the data that we were asking about earlier, or could maybe share some of what you've come across, both in terms of proliferation of illegal, but then also the registered, unregistered issue that's come up too.
Yeah, I think the important group to look at are those that
Ms.
are...
Paulin, sorry, can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jill Paulin. Yeah, I think the group that we want to look at are those that are eligible to register but have chosen not to, because they are still renting, technically illegally. And we believe there's about 900 of those. So there was about 2,500 that were eligible, and about 1,600 based on the last DPP data have registered. So there's about 900 that I think probably didn't register, maybe because they were afraid of what the property taxes would be, unfortunately. So I agree with Stephen. I think there's this balance about making it fair so that people will comply and also pay the $1,000 registration fee.
Mahalo, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the city administration? Members, I am in alignment with looking at lowering the rates for, especially for Tier 1, especially. I know that I don't know if anyone has any further ideas about the rates, but we need that data, right? Looking at the revenue impacts to our city budget, which will then in turn relate to how many further cuts to our budget we will possibly have to make. So I'm just letting you know that the budget resolution with the real property rates will have to move forward with the budget bills. And, if we make amendments verbally here, we can do that, but we have to come with a possible rate. But I personally would like to wait for the data and information so I could make certain determinations, whether it be in an FD1 or back in committee here for CD2. But I wanted to just let everyone know this, and but we're still in discussion. I just wanted to say that as my discussion point. And so any other questions or comments, Councilmember Tupola?
Thanks so much, Chair. Yeah, in support of your suggestion, also to take into consideration one of the phrases they said we might not have remembered is, if we go too high, we run the risk of lots of people not registering, period. So I think we have to be aware of that gap. And because, like I said, there needs to be maybe a goal and end line, and we want to encourage people to register. So I think that's gonna, back to the data. If we can go back to the data, that would help us to make a better decision on this, so that we're encouraging people to get registered, so that we can kind of get a grip on all of this and answer what Councilmember Okimoto said, which is what we all want, is clear delineation between the legals and illegals, but we have to do it in such a way that we're not scaring off everyone, and then now all of a sudden we have no thought of, where our baseline is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It seems that the members of the committee, or of the council and the committee, are pretty much in alignment. I do want to once again reiterate that passing this bill, this resolution forward with the current rates is just so that it moves along with the budget bill. Members, anyone can make amendments for the resolution. Okay. Any other comments, Councilmember Say?
So, Madam Chair, for Class J and K, are these new rates that are being proposed?
Great question. I would like to allow for Budget Department Director, Deputy Director, excuse me, to please share the new rates. Maybe we should have done that from the very beginning, but actually, may I ask the department to share the new rates that, the new classifications that are in the budget, the real property assessments? J and K.
Okay.
What Councilmember Say's question.
For classification J, which is bed and breakfast, we have a rate of $6.50 per thousand assessed value.
Okay.
For Class K, which is the new transient vacation rental, we have two tiers. The first tier 1, so this is based on an $800,000 threshold. The rate is at $9, and at tier 2, the rate is at $11.50. And I would like to clarify that, when we looked at trying to establish what the rate should be, we came up with this. Again, we're looking at something between bed and breakfast and hotel. We identified this rate. We then, again, looked at what the other counties were charging. Hawaii County does not have a TVU rate, but we did look at Kauai, and we did look at Maui. Now, we're very different from Maui. But just in terms of, where does this rate stand in comparison to the other counties?
Okay. No, Ms. Castro, the reason why I posed this question was to find out how much of a real property tax revenue you would generate with the Class K. Maybe Steve, Mr. Takara, could you expand on that? My question was, with the new Class K, what was the administration's projections in the revenues that your folks are looking at?
Okay, so based on our data and registered TVU properties, we have a parcel count of 1,872 parcels. In the tier 1, there's 1,390 properties, and in tier 2, we have 482 properties. When we looked at the means or the medium assessed value, it was about $706,000 as the median value. The mean value was almost $900,000. So the total value, if we take those parcels times the median value, then the total value of all the properties is $1,663,769 in terms of assessed values. Then when we apply the rates, the total taxes are approximately $16 million.
Okay, and the point I think Chair Cordero made is that 60 million is incorporated in the development of the fiscal year 25 budget.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Say, could you?
What I'm saying is that in the formulation of the Class K, the administration was looking at a dollar amount of new real property taxes of about 16 million tied to the budget that is before us.
Correct.
Okay. The reason why I pose that, Madam Chair, is that if we decide not to go with the $9 and you go with the $6.50, which was discussed earlier, how much revenues will we be losing? And that's the discussion I'm having with you. The other question, may I ask one more question?
Yes.
And this is in regards to not rates, but assessment. Overall, property tax assessments that we are calculating for fiscal year 25 is how much? 4% increase in the assessments, 6%, 8%, 10% for assessments. The value of the assessments per property.
I'm sorry, council members say, I'm having a hard time
Okay,
hearing.
no, the question is simply put, I just wanted to know for all of the rates we're not touching except for J and K, I just want to know about the assessments for all the others. Have it gone up also as far as residential, Class A, hotel and resort, residential assessment, has it gone up?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Is it 3%, 4% assessment went up, or was it 10% assessment?
Oh, it's gone up about between 3 and 4%
Okay,
as far as assessed
that's the ballpark figure
values.
I wanted to know. Yeah.
Or actually, I take that back. It really has, compared to last year, it really has stayed relatively flat, and in some districts, it's actually gone down.
Up, yeah. But overall for the county, because I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to generate the revenues to pay for county services.
Councilor Marte, for clarification, because you said up, for some districts it went down.
What's that?
Some districts it went down, is what she said, not up.
Sub-districts?
Correct. Some.
Some districts, yeah, but overall, county of Oahu, 2% increase, 3% from last year?
2%. Yes.
State your name, please.
Stephen Takara, how's it going? So again, I'm just trying to clean house and make sure we're talking about the same thing here, or your question, that if I can offer on point answer, right? I believe what is being asked is the values, how did the values go up? In particular, residential values, is that what's being asked, or all of the classes across the board?
For all the classes across the board,
Yeah,
if it went up. Because I'm just trying to formulate what would be the end balance with these increases of the assess.
Okay, so again, just to continue, what I'm thinking, what's being asked is the values as well as the rates, right? Because I believe the talk was about rates at first, right? So the rates remains the same,
Correct.
right? The proposal in this resolution, I forget, 2461.
J and K.
Right. Right. So the only one's changing or is being introduced is the TVU class.
Yeah,
At the not right. Okay. So that being said, the values have fluctuated. We like to think we're reflective of the market, right? So residential wise, they went up less than 0.5%, right, overall. But again, as Chair Cordero was speaking, right, there's different zones that went up and down on the most part. Yeah.
But you must know what the generation of real property tax revenues, because you're formulating this budget.
Oh, no, I just did the other stuff. So that's why I defer and punt to her all the time with the other harder questions. But what I'm saying is that the right, so globally, right, I think what Deputy Castle is saying is that globally it's relatively flat. What we kind of refer to as flat. Or
Okay.
Councilmember Say,
Yeah.
so if we go back to our overall revenue, I think we saw that real property taxes went up about, the total revenue from real property taxes went up about $50-ish million. But
Okay.
we have to remember that last year we had the one-time tax credit of $350. And in terms of what that meant, in terms of total real property tax revenue, that equated to about $52 million of revenue.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. Deputy Director, I just want to ask a question. Besides the K classification, the Class K, are there any changes to real property rates from Class A, from residential to Class J bed and breakfast?
Not for this fiscal year,
Not
FY July 1st, 2024.
So we are not making any rate changes to residential, hotel and resort, commercial, industrial, agricultural, preservation, public service, vacant agricultural, or residential A?
That's correct.
Okay. And bed and breakfast, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're just adding a new class and then adding tiers to Class K, which is transit vacation, and those 2 tiers. Okay, just wanted
That's
to
correct.
get that clear. Okay, thank you. Members, any discussion? Committee Vice Chair Wire.
I'm just curious, and Steve, or apologies, Deputy Director, Administrator, not to put you on the spot, but if it's like a simple calculation, like say we go down from 9 to 750, that's the only change. Is there a general way we can figure that out?
Yeah. We
Okay.
can help you out on that. So the idea, I think, just to kind of summarize and make sure that that we're on the same page with the other committee members and the other council members is that I think that the idea, and Chair Cordero mentioned it, right? So if we're going to reduce rates, how does it impact the overall budget, right? Are we going to cut, services, or we're going to cut the budget, right? So we can do that. We did that last year, in the PIG meetings prior to setting the rates as well.
Yeah.
Okay, can I take this opportunity to ask specifically maybe rates? Because we cannot touch the threshold. The threshold is by ordinance, right? So the rates can be adjusted according to the outcome, desired outcome. So if it's going to be revenue neutral, right, you lower the first half, the tier 1, you're going to increase it on tier 2. But if you're asking just to touch tier 1, what would it be from 9 to 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, I can handle that one. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess there's 2 parts to it too, because like first on like the rate side, I think it's just hard to digest. Like someone going from Res A to TVU, and then they're going to see like over a double, right, from $4. So I think that's part of the shock. And then on the amount side, it's been thrown out that it might be, say we brought 9 down to 750, it might only cost us like 1.8 million or so. But I don't know if that's why I just wanted to make sure that that's like the actual possible number.
No, hey, that's a.
Because if we end up talking,
it's near there.
Yeah.
So how's that? That's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Actually might be more. Well, anyway, we
that's why I'm asking, because if it's like 5, 10, 20 million, right? Like that's but just in your experience.
If this TV class is targeted to bring up in about 16 million, right? So how much is that tier 1 going to bring it down a little bit, right? So, as you requested earlier in the discussion, that if we can offer different scenarios, but if the focus is on tier 1, that takes the second equation out, right? Tier 2 adjustments. So I think I can handle that.
Yeah, because I mean, right now the tier 2 for Class K is about the same as Res A, but I understand that the threshold is lower, and so that amount is, which I understand what you're saying about the ordinance. So just wanted to flesh this out, because I think that's kind of where mind is going. And I can't speak for everyone else on the committee, but I think bringing it down to like maybe 750 would seem, a little bit fair in my mind on tier 1.
Thank you. And are you making a recommendation for an amendment, or are you waiting for the data?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Would be 10 min.
Okay, we can talk about it when we get to further in discussion. Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Chair, because of how important this measure is, and I feel that some of the answers are a little different than answers from BFS to previously asked questions, I would like to be able to give you some questions in writing by close of business today.
Thank you.
So that I could have their answers in writing in preparation for the next hearing. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, members, any further Councilmember Tipola, that's
Thank you. Thank you for suggesting questions in writing. I think that would help all of us so that we can get everything that was said audibly written down. I feel like we've circled around this conversation a lot. One thing we need to consider, though, is that the Res A between Tier 1 and Tier 2, what is the difference in the amount? Is it 1 million?
So Sorry, Councilmember Tupola, I think you're question was, what was the difference in rate?
So residential A, tier 1 is below $1 million, correct?
It's up to $1 million?
Yes, and then if you're
as far as the assessed value?
right, and then if you're over $1 million, you're in tier 2, correct?
Correct.
So the difference is that the TVU tier 1 is 800,000, correct?
Correct.
And that if you're over 800,000, then you're in tier 2.
That's correct.
So I just think we need to take that into consideration. Is that correct? No, Steve, that's not correct. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, just to clarify what's being asked or commented and what I think how it actually applies. So everybody's in tier 1, right? I think what Deputy Director Casso mentioned, that I forget what the numbers were, but everybody's in tier 1. So the first 800,000 or less than 800,000.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Everyone, so what you're saying is that if the first million is in tier 1, is that what you're trying to say,
Yeah,
Mr. Takara? Got it.
So, yeah, so it's not like if you're over 800,000, you're going to get.
So for the first million, you're assessed the $4 at residential A, and for over $1 million, you're assessed the $11.40, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So that logic applies to the TVU.
Yeah, so that was the only thing I wanted to bring up, is that I understand the logic for TVU, but just we should understand that the threshold is not $1 million for that one. And I'm only bringing that up because I think, Councilmember Wire brought up we should have parity between tier 1, tier 2 residential, tier 1, tier 2 transit vacation. Maybe, right? If we're talking about changing the rates to be similar. So my suggestion is, because I think the threshold of 800,000, that's written in law somewhere else, and that's not part of this rate, correct? Yeah. Just for us to kind of take that into consideration. We're talking about the 800,000 threshold for TVU and not $1 million for tier 1, the separation between tier 1 and tier 2.
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Can I take this opportunity? So we got some smart people already did some calculations.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so can I share that? Can I share that already? So you're right, Vice Chair Wire. So, well, pretty close. So if tier 1 dropped from 9 to 750, the decrease in revenue would be approximately 1.86 million.
Thank you, Chair. 1.6 million? Can you repeat that again, please, Mr. Takara?
1.86.
1.86
Yeah.
for dropping it down to 750.
Yeah, from 9 to 750. Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other discussion? Okay, members, I have my motion, but is there any other motion? It's up to you. I'm open.
Well, so this is going to come back to committee.
Yes, correct.
Are we, and this is for discussion purposes, right? Is the committee wanting to see other information relating to other adjustments, including looking at the threshold, looking at raising it, lowering it even further, maybe even looking at the B&B rate?
Yes, I do note that both Councilmember Tupola and our Council Vice Chair Kiaina are having questions, so we could look at not just different scenarios, but also maybe even other things relating to maybe how DPP handles their processes too.
Okay, so I'll hold off on making an amendment request at this time. I think if it was today and then we're done, I would say that would be my motion to amend to 750 for tier 1. But I do think we can do some more in-depth analysis and see if we can even make better amendments.
Okay, thank you. With that, members, I do want to reiterate, and I want to thank the members for bringing up, especially our Council Vice Chair, relating to questions to provide to Department of Budget and Fiscal Services. We will have them hopefully have a response. Is end of the week okay if we submit them like end of day today or first thing tomorrow, if we can get those numbers worked out?
End of the week, yes.
End of the week is cool. Okay, thank you very much. Members, is that possible? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, any further discussion on this?
I'll just note my reservations.
Okay,
on
understood.
passing it, yeah.
Okay, understood. Once again, I want to reiterate that we do need the budget rates to move forward, and as we make amendments to our budget. Okay, members, any other discussion? Seeing none, members, The chair recommends that Resolution 24-61 be reported out for scheduling of a public hearing and thereafter be referred back to committee. Any discussion? Once again, when it comes back to committee, I'm also of the understanding that I would like to see these rates looked at, even discussed for possible change as well, but I need the data to also look at that as well. Any objections? Any noting the reservations by our committee Vice Chair Wire? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, moving forward. Thank you very much. Moving forward to agenda number 4. Okay, members, how are we doing though? Are you guys okay? Okay, all right. Agenda number 4, Bill 12, 2024, which approves the executive operating budget and program for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Members, the worksheet is Council Communication 81. Council Communication 81. Members, I do want to note that we will, just like the last item, I'm going to go with testifiers first, okay? I'm going to go with testifiers first. This is the executive operating budget, and I'll explain the worksheet as we go through it. I hope that the worksheets have been passed out, but if not, it will be done so during testimony. Okay, with that, we have online testifiers for Bill 12, 2024. I'll call the remote testifiers in the order that I have it, and then I will call for further remote testifiers. First up, we have Daniel Donnell, followed by Eliza Talbot, followed by Connor Birdsall. Oh, did I lose? No, I did. Okay. Daniel Donnell.
Aloha, Committee Chair Cordero and members of the Budget Committee. I'm Dan Donnell, President of Trees for Honolulu's Future. Benefits of trees are clear. When this hearing's over, just go outside Council Chamber. There's artwork from Keiki all over the island highlighting the benefits of trees. Please check them out. My written testimony, I wrote, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. What I meant and elaborate on is public health and safety. It's really important to maintain trees. If they fail, they can damage life and property. City's going to end up having liability, so it's a really important. And also, it's important for the health of the tree. Most recently, we lost the Chinese banyan at Palolo McDonald's, the triangle there, because it wasn't enough funding to keep it properly healthy. So in conclusion, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but please ask Duff, DPR, how much money they need for maintenance because costs have gone up. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. You all have the very difficult job.
Thank you, Mr. Donnell. Members, I would like to can you leave? Can you exit? I'm going to assign Councilmember Okimoto as a member of the Committee on Budget. Okay, I don't have any more. Councilmember Kiaina is back. Okay, next up we have Eliza Talbot, followed by Connor Birdsall, followed by Aaron Tominaga.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, next we have Connor Birdsall, followed by Aaron Tominaga. Is that person? Oh, actually, Aaron, can you wait? We're gonna do in person. When can you know that Aaron's in person? Then we have Connor Birdsall, followed by Irish Barber. Oh, Connor, hold on, in person after. Okay, next up we have Irish Barber, followed by Alfred Chung Zhang. Irish? Oh, sorry, Aaron's online? Oh, I apologize, Aaron's not in person. Aaron Tominaga, okay, members. Aaron Tominaga, followed by Irish Barber, followed by Alfred Chung Zhang. Okay, Mr. Tominaga, please.
Okay, hi. Aloha, Chair Cordero, and to the Budget Committee. My name is Aaron Tominaga. My wife, Lisa, and I, we're residents of the Mililani community. I also submitted written testimonial in strong support for Bills 12 and 13. My 11-year-old son, Asher, is a participant in the inline hockey league. And this has had an overall just really positive impact, not just on his self-confidence, but his overall health and fitness, which is great to see in this day and age. Because the outdoor hockey facility is continually subjugated to adverse weather conditions, practices and games have oftentimes been postponed or canceled due to safety reasons. And this limitation on court availability has also had an overall negative impact on his development, not just for him, but for others that are participating in the sport. Unfortunately, as support and interest from the community continues to increase, and it is from what I've been seeing in the community, not having an adequate and safe facility for practices and games will hinder growth in allowing others to safely enjoy the sport. So thank you for listening. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tominaga. Next up, we have Irish Barber, followed by Alfred Chung Zhang.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Irish Barber. I'm the business representative for IATSE Local 665. We're the labor union that works on film, TV series, live events, and conventions. Regarding Bill 12, I oppose the cuts to the Honolulu Film Office. I understand that a couple of council members have recommended cuts to the film office. Mahalo to those who didn't, and I appreciate your understanding that the film office is vital to our industry. Just like the construction industry needs a building department, the film industry needs a film office, especially now as the industry is growing, thanks in part to their hard work. The film office was established over 30 years ago in 1993 and has been funded by the city that whole time. To my knowledge, no city, county, or state film office in the country gets federal funding for its operation. So this requirement would effectively close the office, which is unthinkable. Our industry generates 400 million per year, and 300 million of that is made on Oahu itself. All of those projects are interacting with the film office. I've seen Valea Constantino, the director, on site before sunrise, after dark, and on weekends to make sure everything runs smoothly. So their commitment is bar none. Finally, mahalo Chair Cordero for visiting the film set at the wastewater treatment plant a couple of weeks ago. It's always great when our government leaders get to know our industry better, and I hope you saw how people rely on this industry and would love to be able to answer any questions and stand on my written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barber, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to work at the City Council from 2012, and I've seen, the film office in different reiterations, especially as an arm under different offices, such as under the Office of Economic Development, now under the Office of Economic Revitalization. Unfortunately, we see that when they are attached in that manner, that we see that they are maybe inadvertently or advertently cut as well. With just my observation, I know that they have to work directly with different agencies, and I was wondering if I were to make the suggestion, and I actually didn't tell the managing director's office this yet, so I'm trying not to look that direction, but whether they can be their own office, especially since we see a proposal, and I don't know if I can say this, but proposal of moving the Office of Housing and Department of Land Management to become one department, and an opening for an office to become an opening for another office under the managing directors. So I would like to see the office of the film, the film office to be its own film office, as it doesn't have to then become part of an arm of the economic revitalization or economic office as well, or just any arm of that economic agency, I would say. As I mentioned, we've seen them through different reiterations. So what are your thoughts about that?
Anything to legitimize the office would, they've worked decades with us side by side to grow this industry to 400 million. We didn't do it by ourselves. And much of it was the hard work on the backs of your employees. And I'd hate to, if that would isolate and protect the film in office, I am 100% in favor of that, because they have been there literally taking the first call from producers and coaxing them to the islands, and literally going island to island and to the mainland around the world to promote Hawaii as a film-friendly locale. So if that would help to protect our very vital film office, I'm all for it.
Mahalo. Okay, thank you. Next up, thank you, Ms. Barber. Okay, next we have Alfred Chung Zhang, and then we will open up for other testifiers. Alfred? Can we unmute Mr. Zhang? Perfect.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name for the record.
My name is Alfred Chung Zhang. I was fortunate enough. Oh, I'm sorry. thank you guys for having us, let us speak today. Thank you, council members. I was fortunate enough to be raised in Mililani. I grew up here, and I remember playing here. I'm at the park that we're talking about today, the Mililani hockey skate rink, and I was able to grow up and skate and play hockey while I was here. And I have 3 children now that also play, and they really enjoy the sport. And you can see that it is raining out here, and it becomes very slippery, wet. I don't have my youngest in skates right now because it's slippery, but they're talking about for the tiles. I don't know if you can see it, but the skates will catch in these grooves, and it can cause them to fall down. When the roof that they're talking about, it's the weather here is always inclement. There's always rain. We've had to deal with rainouts quite a few often times. Yeah, and I know it
Thank you. Alfred, may I ask you're in support of Bill 12?
Yes, I'm in support of it. The lighting at night. My father passed away when I was a young adult, and I know that for there to be positive growth options for the young adults, something that they can do in the evenings and the nighttime, that when temptations come, that they are able to come to somewhere that will help them do things, even in the evening times, even at night, that they can play some active sport will help them to grow.
Okay, thank you very much, I think. Okay, thank you. Next, is there any other registered is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? I see that we have Angela Young. And if you wish to testify, please use the raise hand feature, or if you're on a phone, please press *9. Angela, go ahead.
Hey, Chair, Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support of Bill 12 and the funding that will go towards culture and arts and the film office. I think we should be supportive of content creators to enhance creative development in terms of economic advantages to support the creative sector of integrated media. And of course, in strong support of the Office of Economic Revitalization, the Transportation Fund, DIT, Corporation Council, and the Honolulu Zoo, one of the best zoos in the nation. And then also prosecuting attorney for their prosecution funds. Looks like there was 19 million that was appropriated for the work of the prosecuting attorney. And I think to retain the best attorneys in the county, there should be good appropriations. And also Department of Emergency Services and DPP and the Stormwater Division from DFM and the Solid Waste Special Fund, which are all very integral to the city operations. So in strong support, yeah, and especially of the Solid Waste Special Fund, which is the glass operations, the glass recycling programs, which operates the waste disposal facility, because incineration facilities cause environmental pollution from ash. And so we should really care about environmental pollution. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hold on one moment. Thank you. Next up, is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Please use the raise hand feature. Okay, this is for item number 4, once again, Bill 12, 2024. Okay, moving forward, we're moving to in-person testifiers. For in-person testifiers, we have Connor Birdsall, and then followed by Aaron, no, sorry, that was one. Katie Petronio. I apologize if I'm saying names incorrectly. So when you come up to the testimony, please state your name for the record and your whether you're in support, opposition, or have comments for the bill.
Hello, my name's Aloha. My name's Connor Bertza from Kapolei, Hawaii, and I strongly urge you to support Bill 12 and the purchase of plastic tiles for the outdoor hockey rink at Aiku Neighborhood Park. The addition of these tiles would greatly improve the safety and quality of hockey in Hawaii. As a 15-year-old tournament-level hockey player who enjoys playing at the Mililani Outdoor Rink, I have been in a handful of tournaments, and the use of tiles would benefit not only mine, but other players of all ages to further their hockey experience, whether they're playing for fun or to go pro. As a hockey player who plays there 4 days a week, the addition of tiles would be a huge plus because we can practice the same type of tiles used in the mainline rinks. It would also save money on stick guards and hockey wheels. Our family alone spends several $100s a year on hockey equipment replacements for playing on concrete. I highly recommend you fit the tiles for these outdoor rinks into the budget. Thank you for listening, and aloha.
Great job. Thank you. Next. Okay, next we have Katie Petronio, and I'm so sorry if I say your name wrong. Please correct me.
Petronio, you were really close. My name is Katie Petronio. I am in support of rink improvements listed in Bill 12 and 13. I was born and raised in Mililani, and I grew up and fell in love playing hockey for the then Mililani Inline Hockey Association. I moved to the mainland when I was 14, and I was recruited to play on an elite women's U19 team, which competed internationally prior to being recruited to play hockey at Bowdoin College in Maine. In high school, there are countless distractions. You have your underage parties with sex, drugs, alcohol, that often resulted in cops busting the parties, kids losing college admissions and scholarships, fatal overdoses, fatal DUIs. And when I went back to school, I was asked, why were you not at that party? And I said, because I was in Chicago playing hockey, because I was in Canada in a tournament, because I was in Europe with my hockey team. And when I wasn't traveling, I held 2 jobs so that I could afford the next tournament and the next trip. Idle hands are a terrible thing today, particularly for our youth. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps, and I owe a lot of my life success to the hockey program in Mililani. The math is quite simple. By funding the rink improvements today listed in Bills 12 and 13, you're investing in an affordable and accessible program that can and will change the trajectory of our youth's lives. Or we can miss this opportunity. In 10 years, you can expect increased funding for drug rehabilitation, homelessness, mental health issues, and unemployment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Kristen, and I hope I say this right, Bibi? Yes. Okay, thank you, followed by Anna Baklayan, or Anna.
Hi, I'm Kristen Beebe. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Hawaii. I'll tell you, you might go, well, what are you currently seeing? Well, currently, a lot of my patients, especially, we'll say University of Hawaii, high school students, lack of communication skills, self-confidence, low self-esteem, anxiety, and a lot of it's coming from not good role models. Well, you might go, well, where can we get good role models? Well, athletic role models can be great. High levels of discipline, perseverance, residency, never giving up, and lessons taught on the field, source of inspiration, development of positive attitudes, show respect to teammates, to the opponents, to fans of the game. So the development of these skills are crucial for young people, building both character and overall a well-rounded life. So you might go, yeah, you know, it's hockey. Look, what I do is I talk to my patients constantly about modeling. Hey, if you don't know, you don't have a good model in your life, I say, watch Modern Family. Sometimes there's some good role models there. You can see examples of families that argue, don't call each other names, very respectful. I also say, come to Mililani and watch the hockey team, because you can see families talk to each other, kids out there, positive results, and they support each other. There's no such thing as a bad player. There's just players. And that's the kind of role models we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, Miss Beebe. Sorry, Miss Beebe. Miss Beebe. I need you to share with us if you're in support or offering comments or opposition.
Great. I'm in support of both 11 and 12.
Okay, Bill 12 and 13, I think.
Is it? Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And the other reason why I support it too is you always want consistency. When they have to keep canceling games, that's not consistent for the kids to know when it's time to play.
Thank you. Anna Baklayan, followed by, I think I have slashes here, hang on. So I'm gonna name them first. Okay, I'll just go with Anna Baklayan first.
Aloha. My name is Anna Baklayan. I am one of many teen hockey players who use the hockey rink at Kamauaiku Community Park. I like to support Bill 12 of the purchase of plastic tiles for outdoor hockey rink. I love hockey, and I would honestly play it all day if I could. There are many exciting parts of playing hockey, as you can imagine, but if I had to narrow it down to one thing, it would be speed. Hockey is super fast, and it makes you feel like you're free. And at times, it makes my mom very nervous. The outdoor rink is made of cement. As much as I am grateful to have a hockey rink to skate at, the flooring is not ideal for the sport. When I fall because of player collision or wrong footing, I fall hard onto the cement, which is worse than falling onto softer tiles, such as plastic. Additionally, the impact of falling onto cement flooring instantly rips my hockey pants, scratches, or ruins my gear, and at times when my gear shifts, leaves me with obvious skin abrasions. Having plastic tiles would create a safer place for me and my teammates to freely skate and at top speed without the worry of falling, replacing gear, or getting hurt. Please consider the purchase of plastic tiles for the rink. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, so next up I have 3 names. You folks can come up together, but I'm going to have you talk one at a time, okay? So, hold on. Do we have a microphone that's like wireless maybe? Do we have that anymore? We used to. Have a chair? Ooh, okay, wait, hold on. Go down. I can't see them. It's unstable. Okay, so first up we have Kimo who will speak, and then we'll have Paisley who will speak, and then Nella who will speak. Can you guys watch each other just in case? Yeah, so I know when you get nervous, people move around, so just stay still when you talk. Okay, so you will state your first and last name, and then you will share if you support or if you're providing comments for the bill, okay? Okay, and you're Kimo, yeah?
Hi, my name is Kimo. This is my sister Nella, and this is my cousin Paisley. Hi, some things that we like about hockey is...
Can you share your name so we know who's talking?
Hi, my name is Paisley Chun, and some things that we like about hockey is learning new things, and the coaches are really nice to everyone, so yeah.
Okay, next we have Nella, yeah? Is it Nella? Okay, Kimo, can you say your name again? Because people who are listening have to hear who's speaking, yeah?
Okay. Hi, my name is Kimo, and Hi has a problem. We don't have tiles, roof, or lighting. The reason why we need tiles is because sometimes our hockey gear can get worn out very easily, and it would be much safer with plastic tiles instead of hard concrete. The reason why we need lights is because our coaches can do practices more into the night, especially in the winters when it gets darker faster.
Hi, my name is Nella, and the reason why we need a roof is because we don't have to cancel games and practices when it rains.
Thank you for supporting Bill 12 and 13.
Thank you very much. Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, all right. They used very great time with their 3 minutes. Okay, next up, next we have, is it Jean or Jeannie Furukawa? Jeannie Furukawa. press the on button, please.
I'm Jeannie Furukawa. I was a parent back in the 90s when hockey was in the neighborhood streets, and it was wonderful to get our rink in Mililani over 20 years ago. I attended meetings back then to ask for a dedicated park, and I'm so grateful this came to pass. Now the next generation of hockey players is using the same rink. I think it's amazing that my kids grew up with their lifelong friends learning so many life lessons under the venue of roller hockey: leadership, teamwork, supporting one another, and physical fitness. Now my kids have been coaching since their college years and are still coaching the next generation. This next generation is now my grandkids. It would be a game changer for Hawaii hockey to have tiles and a roof and even lights. This would solve the rain delays and keep it safe for all the players. Roller hockey is unique in that a little sprinkle of rain and it becomes very slippery. What a dream it would be for me to be as a spectator out of the sun and rain to watch my grandkids play roller hockey. I hope and pray that improvements can be made to make it even better with Bill 12 and 13. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Now we'll go to Jamie Yoder. And then followed by Kaipo Cabral, and then Adam Burke.
Hi, I want to start out by saying thank you for listening to us and having us here. My name's Jamie Yoder. Little background, my dad owned a roller rink, so I grew up playing hockey. I was blessed enough to be able to play all over the world for the U.S. World Team for 15 years, and it's been great. I've been coaching out here now for 13 years, taking these kids to the mainland. Twice a year we go to nationals, and they do a great job. The flooring, though, is a big thing, and the cover. For safety purposes, it's going to help the kids get to that next level. There's colleges out there that do full rides now for kids in roller hockey, and these kids deserve that opportunity, okay? Even traveling the world like I did, they deserve that opportunity, and it's hard for them to get there when they're playing on cement. They really do need the floor that everybody plays on in the mainland and overseas and everything like that. The roof, just for safety. I mean, like they said, any water gets on a floor, and it does get very slick for the kids. So I'm in full support of 12 and 13. I think these kids deserve the opportunity and the safety that everybody else has in the world. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, mahalo, Mr. Yoder. We'll go to Kaipo Cabral.
Hello, my name is Kaipo Cabral. I'm a hockey player, a coach, and also a board member for Hawaii Inline Hockey. You've heard everything else as far as for the tiles, in support of Bill 12 and 13. With the help of our community, we have presented a proposal to Representative LaChica, which gives a breakdown of the cost in completing the building at $1.5 million. After adding shipping, erecting, engineering, etc., total is about $2.3 million. But after all the applicable solar tax credits, it brings it down to about $1.3 million. The total system ROI is about 5 years. This is not including investment tax credits or elective pay if applicable. This would be a great opportunity to create a green facility that can showcase the sport of hockey in Hawaii, keep us from rain delays, give us the needed shade for our family spectators, and make available more court time for everyone. Hockey has been in our lives for over 30 years, all the way back to the early 90s with the Zippies commercial we did to go to a Chicago tournament back then. We have the most dedicated parents and loving community support for the Hawaii Inline Hockey. I'm in full support and humbly ask for you to support and push through Bill 12 and 13. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaipo. Next, we have Adam Burke.
Good afternoon, Chair Cordero, council members. Thank you for having us here. My name is Adam Burke, and I'm in favor of Bill 12 and Bill 13, financing advancements to an existing roller hockey rink in Mililani. I'm a lifetime Oahu resident. As a 14-year-old high school freshman, I wrote a letter to the editor which was then the Honolulu Star Bulletin, published on June 2nd, 1997. See page 13. That was my form of public testimony at the time. That letter, summarized here, described the formation of the Mililani hockey community, the value of this activity and community to local youth, and referenced Mayor Jeremy Harris's allocation of $250,000 for a regulation hockey court. At the time, we had been waiting 3 years for the court. The court was built. 27 years later, here I am, a university professor, involved with the same hockey community, playing in the same court, now also serving as a volunteer to our keiki. Many of the young players 3 decades ago are now leaders in this local community group. We can see that it's not just multi-generational in participation, but it's multi-generational in leadership. Your support of these bills is a continued investment in people, a continued investment in stories, and a continued investment in sustained momentum. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burke. Members, not members, is there anyone else who wishes to testify who has not registered? Okay, oh, I can't see. Okay, seeing none, I know that Councilmember Okimoto has a question for someone.
Go ahead. If it's permissible, I would like to ask if Mr. Bo Chan could come up. I know he didn't register as a testifier, but I believe he's sitting there.
He's sitting. Oh, you're being called out, Mr. Chan. Just kidding.
I promise you're not on the hot seat.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Bo. I was hoping you would be a registered testifier, but you're not. So I just wanted to call you up here. And thank you, first of all. I know that everybody here came. You guys brought the keiki with you. I appreciate the testimonies that were shared. And I had the pleasure of joining you along with my team to go and visit the site. If you could share part of the experience of what the flooring is, but also I wanted to give the public an idea of how many keiki are we seeing that are using this facility on a regular basis. If you have a number, we have some with us today.
Yeah, so I'm Bo Chun. I'm a member and a board member of Hawaii Hockey. Sorry, I'm nervous speaking. As for kids, I would say with less than a year, we've gotten probably 80, maybe close to 100 kids. I played on concrete. It hurts a whole lot. And I think for the kids, some of the kids have grown to play on the plastic tile. The technology of the tile now has like these spacers, so when they fall, there's a lot of give. And if not too many are informative on like hockey gear, sticks now alone are like $100. So imagine rubbing plastic on the concrete, how fast that can go. But that plastic will save a lot of gear with wheels and all that. But just more of the safety aspect of it, yeah, it's just safer. I mean, I'd rather fall on soft plastic than concrete. And we also have an adult league that's growing. I think we're up to 100 plus now total of members playing with us. So adding a roof and lighting would help open hours at night, which will be great because we have hardly any covering from the sun, let alone, kids getting heat stroke. We try our best to provide water and everything. So roof and lighting would be key. And it also would save the tiles that we put in from being sun beaten and everything.
What is the life duration of the tiles without the covering? And then I know we anticipate it being longer if there's a covering, but without it, what would be the estimated duration of the tile flooring?
So certain different manufacturers that I've been, getting all the info from is anywhere between 5 to 10 years, mattering on the manufacturers, obviously mattering on the weather or the location of where the tiles are going to be.
And are there any other locations other than the Mililani skating facility that's being used? I know I met some of you are from across the island, but are there other places on the island that are being used?
Not that I know of. Every I think hockey rink in Hawaii, Big Island, and Kauai is concrete. I mean, there was one in Hickam, but that's not even no longer around, I think.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you answering. I appreciate the input given. I agree, especially with the youth of today. It's really positive to have an outlet that's not electronic gadget tied. I played indoor sports, so and you saw me try to hit a puck. I'm really bad at it, but I know that the kids who love this sport, we're happy. The best way we can support. But I appreciate you coming, and I think it's really a positive thing for us to support in the midst of everything else that we're dealing with. So thank you. And if you have any other concerns, please just let my office or I know. Thank you.
very
Thank you,
much.
Chair.
Thank you, members. Any other testifiers who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none for Bill 12. Members, before we move on into the operating, which will take up a bulk of the time, I do want to ask the members in between, because we are now, after we are PAL with what's it called? Agenda item number 4. We will be more than halfway through our agenda, but that means there is 7 items on this agenda. So I want to know if we are breaking, if the members would like to break between operating and capital for lunch, and maybe 35, 40-minute thoughts. Council Committee Vice Chair Wire, followed by Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Yeah, no, I defer to Budget Chair. I think if there's any way to fit in testifiers for
Testifiers for capital?
For capital at any point before lunch, because I think there may be folks that have been online and then are also in the gallery.
Okay, Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Chair, I would recommend the break, but I would limit it to 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And how about your thoughts on Councilmember Wires taking testimony and then before looking at the capital worksheets?
Bill 13, I would prefer not to, because there are several people. I would prefer to take a 30-minute break after. First of all, this is going to take a while.
It will. This will take a while. You're right. Okay, members, any other thoughts? Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Well, I'm curious, with testimony closed on operating, is it permissible to take testimony on?
No, I asked that already. I am not able to take up capital testimony until we get to capital.
Okay.
I already asked.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I wanted to do that as well. Okay. Let's do this. Sorry. Members, this will take a while. So if you have to go, if we need to take a little 10-minute break, just do so. If you have to go out, just do so. Okay, first up, we're now in discussion. Members, I'm going to be taking it up by page. If there's any pages that overflow into different divisions or agencies, I will let you know how far we will take up until onto the next page. For example, we have on page 1, you will see that under the managing director, it goes up into page 4, 5, 6, 5, right? So I will then allow not to take up just a page, but I'll just do culture and the arts up to page 2. You see how I mean about going up to a particular agency? So page 1, including the top of page 2, okay? Hold on, one moment. Oh, remote list. Here, and one moment. Here's my remote list. Okay, next up, first up, we have page 1. On the top of page 2, you will see there that I accepted overtime as well as certain city management on page 1 and page 2. Are there questions for the city administration that you have relating to city management, culture and the arts, and administration? I have a question for the city administration, if I can start off as this comes up. We will see throughout the operating budget activity of overtime. Would you be able to share thoughts about that, Deputy Managing Director?
Good afternoon, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, and members of the City Council. So with respect to the overtime item, the Budget and Fiscal Services Director will be able to speak to it a little bit more, but I will share generally that our position is that this item is already a sub-item under the activity class, and so we don't really see the value or the utility of including a new activity called overtime in general And that's for all of the departments, but the budget department can share more because it's also an operational challenge for them to build that in. I will say that for the mayor's office and the managing director's office, we don't have overtime, so this issue is moot, but that's the general statement on that issue.
So you're saying for administration, for mayor and managing director, that there's no overtime?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I guess if you want to call up, and since we're on this discussion relating to the activity, we can call up Deputy Director Castle as an overall general. And we may bring this up throughout the budget, Deputy Director, so be available as the member who recommended it may be able to explain further too.
Good afternoon, Budget Chair Cordero. Thank you for allowing me to explain the overtime activity requests. Carrie Castle, BFS Deputy Director. So in terms of the request to create a new activity referred to as overtime, our system, the way our financial and payroll system is structured, it does not allow us to create an activity within an activity. So what I mean by that is the suggestion of creating an overtime activity. If we're looking at, as an example, BFS department, the administration is considered an activity. And then within administration, the request is to create a activity called overtime. So again, our financial system, our payroll system does not allow us to create an activity within an activity. I'd like to offer that we already have object code 1102, which identifies overtime. So that is non-holiday pay overtime. We provided in budget communication for to City Council a line item report that shows for each department, each activity, such as, again, administration, we identified what the overtime is. And referring to that report, it breaks out fiscal year 22, 23 actuals, as well as FY24 appropriated amount, and then we also reflect our FY25 budget. So the information is already there. If we were to try to accommodate this request, we would have to end up spending outside consultant resources to have our systems developer work on developing new programming for both our financial system as well as our payroll system. And again, it just wouldn't be best practices. So we feel strongly about not going down this path of creating a new activity called overtime. It cannot be accomplished as the system exists today.
Thank you, Deputy Director. I did accept all the amendments that are under this possible new activity, but we do have Council Chair Waters also welcome to the committee, and also if you have any questions, as this is your amendment.
Thank you, Budget Chair Cordero, and good now afternoon, Deputy Director. So I realize, based on our conversation last week, that you're saying it's a administrative challenge to include overtime as an activity, right?
It's a system challenge.
So the system's not set up to put overtime as an activity.
Well, as an activity, no. We already capture overtime in an object code 1102, as I mentioned. But the example I was giving is for, let's say, for Budget and Fiscal Services Department. There is an activity called administration. So if the request was to have the within administration activity, what is the overtime activity, you cannot have an activity within an activity. That doesn't fit our current financial system, nor does it fit our payroll system.
How much
And-
will it cost to upgrade the current system to accommodate this request?
I don't have that information for you. We would have to go to
Can you
our-
get back to us? I mean, the ultimate idea here, Chair, is to be more transparent. We want to fully fund overtime. We just don't want the departments to have to pull from other resources in order to pay for overtime. And it helps us do our budgeting better. You may recall a couple years ago, we actually audited HPD on overtime, and they changed the way they did it. I know it's apples and oranges, but still, they were able to change the way they process overtime. So it'd be super helpful for us if you could let us know how much that'll cost to change the system.
Okay, Chair. I do want to reiterate, again, I hear you. We will see if we can obtain that information, what that would cost, the time that would take to be able to implement this across the board, across all the agencies, all the activities.
Well, not
within-
all. We just heard from the Deputy Managing Director that the Mayor's office and Managing Director's office do not have overtime. So,
Yeah, I think.
but I hear you. I mean, it's cumbersome, but I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think what would happen is if we're going to make this kind of structural change to our financial system or payroll system, what we want to do is it has to be across the board. We are not going to say, for mayor's office, we're not going to do this, but for HPD, we will, because those sweeping types of system changes, they do need to be across the board so that our system is consistent, whether we look at one department or another. And then I also wanted to offer that in terms of transparency, we do have the information available. Again, I was referring to the City Council line item detail where it is broken out by department, activity within a department, the activity, the object code for overtime, both non-holiday pay overtime as well as holiday. And so we believe the visibility already exists. The reports have already been provided. So we believe the information is there and accessible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Where am I? Members, so I've chosen to accept the overtime. As you can see on the first page, I accepted the funding position for 0.5 under city management. I accepted, but moved.
Just vis-a-vis the dollar